And the Chiefs respond with the big hits of their own.
Now,
Good Chiefs support at the stadium today.
let's go! News, views, and behind-the-scenes chats from Sandy Park. This is the Exeter Chiefs podcast with Rhino and Bentos.
We're back in the studio for another podcast, Bentos.
We most certainly are looking back to a brilliant game against Worcester. I'd say the Chiefs have got their mojo back.
And we've got our biggest game ever, would you say, this week?
I think there's been finals, there's been other games, but for me, the nature of the fact that we're in the last 8 teams in Europe, and when you think of the teams that are not in the last 8 teams in Europe, it's quite exciting.
Did you watch Wasps at the weekend, though?
Yes, I did.
Strong performance from them against Saints.
I think so, and especially when you consider Saints had to get the result to be in the mix for the top 4, and we're going for it. For me, I think it's going to be a cracking game. I'm going to go with my Chiefs hat on. I'm going to be cheering for the Chiefs, and I'll probably be slightly inebriated. But you're going to have 2 teams that go to win. The attitude is we're going to score a lot of tries.
We've got lots coming up on the podcast then. We're here from Olly Woodburn. We're here from Ali Hepher. Got a little clip from Dean Ryan. And on the phone, you've lined up
Moray Lowe.
And I've lined up Julian Salvi.
Yes.
So we'll hear from them in a moment. Let's start by having a quick listen to what Ali Hepher had to say about the game at the weekend.
Look, it wasn't about next weekend. It was really about Premiership for us, getting back on track. Obviously, disappointed with last week, but I think it shows from last night how well Sarries were playing at the minute. So, and when we reviewed the game from last week, we weren't a million miles from it. But we just had to get back on track, get a bit of our attacking game back on the opposition, and I thought we did that. We did that really well.
This is the Exeter Chiefs podcast.
So what do you make of the first thing that Ali had to say then, Bentos, about last weekend being a really good warm-up for this weekend? Is that really how they would be thinking?
It's business end of the season. I think it's a game at a time now. You've just got to win things. And I think behind closed doors, the coaches are going to be happy. And I'd maintain that since we lost at home to Saracens, we haven't seen the form of the Chiefs of the early part of the year. All of a sudden, Slade's back, Welch is back, Lees is back, Cowan Dickey's back, the injured boys are back in the mix. Knowlesy's back from the international, Moray Lowe's back from the international, Thomas Francis is, but he's banned, but he's back. And we've suddenly got our...
He was in the Costa queue on Sunday at David Lloyd whilst I was there.
I bet he was in there for a while, getting a few pasties and pies, enjoying his time off. I get the feeling that we've suddenly hit our straps at the perfect time, and I think a lot can be said for the influence of the guys that have been there before, your Parlings, your Waldroms, your Salvis, that are used to the business end of the season.
Well, let's hear quickly from Tank on what he had to say after the game about the business end of the season.
Probably over the last month, maybe, but it's all those little things clipped. We played some good stuff last week and a couple of weeks before that, but today I think it was a full 80 we clipped most times, which was nice. And we had a bit of a patch here just before half time, but we came out strong in the second half and we sort of carried on. We know what we have to do internally, and we'll keep it that way. But so we can put the Premiership to bed for a week and then focus on European now. And it's a week for the club, and it's about us going out there and putting our game out there and seeing what happens. But and then you come back to the Premiership, and then we start all over again.
Before we talk to Moray Lowe and get Julian Salvi on, I just want to have a quick chat about Olly Woodburn and the performance we're seeing from him. And a lot of the fans who we'll hear from a bit later in the podcast really, really flying the flag for Olly and his performance at the weekend. Mm-hmm. What are you making of where he's coming from at the moment?
Well, after the game, I do the hospitality lounge. I took Ricky Pello this week. And Ricky just said across the board, the coaches are really happy with our outside backs at the moment. You know, you've got Lockie Turner, who's new in the mix. You've got Jack Knoll. You've got
no impression of Lockie this week.
No, mate, don't be like that, mate. You've obviously got Olly. You've got Shorty. It shows how good they're going when you've got to remember you've got Byron McGuigan, Chris Ander, both are one international player, one A international player, and they're not in the mix. The firepower that we've got, the guys are going real well, and Olly. David Flatman gave him possibly the best plaudit when he left Bath, said that Bath are going to miss this guy.
Yeah.
He was stuck behind Rocker Dagoon. He wasn't getting the match time he wanted. He's come to Chiefs reinvigorated and he's really bought into it. And the thing I like the most is when he scores his tries, he's so engaged with the crowd. He's like Forrest Gump. He scores, and he just keeps going till he's into the middle of the crowd.
He's picking up the Steno lead of working with the crowd, isn't he?
It is that symbiotic relationship that some of the guys are picking up with the tribe, which means that, you know, looking forward to these playoffs, if we make the playoffs, if we get a home semi-final, we're a really hard team to beat on our patch.
After the game, in the presser, he couldn't contain the smile on his face from that performance. So let's hear from him quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's given us a lot of momentum going into the quarters. We're going to, go home, recover well, enjoy the win, but we'll have a lot of focus going into the next week.
Was that the best the boys have played in probably a month or so? Do you feel, or for a while?
I think so. I think we came into this game thinking we haven't had like one of those extra performances we've seen like in the European Cups and early stages of the season, so we ought to come out and put our statement out.
And for you, the battle for places is intensifying. Knowlesy's back in the place, Campagnaro's back, but when you put in performances like that, it's a great place to be at the moment.
Yeah, it is. Just enjoying my rugby. There's a lot of competition here. We're all pushing on each other, but we're all enjoying it. We're all backing each other, and we're very happy at the moment. We're looking forward to going forward. 3 rounds to go, Olly. Home semi-final's got to be the target now? Yeah, that's what we're aiming for. We're not going to shy away from it. We've got high goals towards the end of the season, and we want to go for 1 or 2.
News, views, and behind-the-scenes chat from Sandy Park. This is the Exeter Chiefs podcast.
In a bit more detail, what changed at the weekend? Because we've heard Tank talk about how he felt, Chiefs were playing as they should be, and they were kind of back. What's been different, Bentos? What did we see different this weekend, and what do we see different at Saracens, in your opinion?
Me, for Saracens, we got caught on the hop. Normally, and I've got a real issue. Everyone knows I have an issue with the way Saracens normally play, in that they kick the ball, defend really hard, the Wolfpack defence. You'll look at a game afterwards and the possession stats will be really high for the team playing against Saracens, but the territory will all be Saracens because they win the kicking game, they put the pressure on in your half, and they only turn the afterburners on when it's not risky. It's like Vladimir Klitschko as a boxer. Massive defence, he's got a decent jab, he outpoints you. I've maintained they've got some cracking players, and what happened was we went to Saracens, expected the kicking duel, kicked a bit too much, and when Saracens got the ball, they didn't kick it back, they kept it. And they're world-class players, because they are world-class players.
Farrell was outstanding.
Well, a lot of them, the Vunipolas, across the board, they played very well.
Oh, well, I want to ask Salvi what it's like to be steamrollered by Vunipola.
He didn't get steamrolled by him.
Well, we hit him.
Well,
to me, that's steamroller in Bentos.
The terminology I use is spaghetti tackle. You just sort of wind yourself in there and they fall over you.
I mean, Salvi's everywhere as it is, but I just want to know what it's like to be clouted by him.
You say he's everywhere. We've got to ring him. He's actually in the studio now. He's omnipresent, Julian Salvi.
So this weekend it was back. Are you feeling that around the club
as well? We got
the
mojo back. Suddenly, the ball was flying out the back of the ruck. Whoever was closest to it just got it and shifted it, and we just started landing the blows again. We were playing like the Chiefs with that the gay abandon is the term I used in the corporate lounges. We were chucking it about, and it was we're going to score points on you. And the first 2 minutes we're trying to play from our try line, and Worcester stood up to us, fair play.
Yeah.
But it's like pounding the stone. We're landing the body blows, and as the game goes on, they fatigue, and we run away with them.
I did feel for them, because listening to Dean Ryan after the game, he was saying that that there's injuries. Some of them have had flu. They're really pushing it out to the end of the season.
He's protecting his team. We'd battered him. No one.
Bentos, you said that we always had to be nice on this.
We do have to be nice, but you know what? We won by 50 points in a Premiership game against a team that in the previous 6 fixtures had taken 2 more league points than us, and in their previous 4 had won them all. They were not expecting to get their trousers pulled down and spanked on the bottom.
Well, let's hear Dean's views on that really quickly. Not on being spanked, but on the actual game.
I think with them playing into the wind, keeping the ball, they looked more organised than we did, and they got that pressure period where we got a yellow card. Very difficult. Come down here and lose people to yellow cards, and the pace they play at, it's very difficult to keep them under control. So,
this is the Exeter Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast, Julian Salvi.
Hey!
It's always good to be back, isn't it, boys?
So, are you recovered from the weekend?
As much as can be. The boys are a bit sore and tired, but it was a good result all around. We got the victory that we wanted and scored some decent tries.
I was saying to Bentos, since you came in, I've paid a lot of attention to you on the pitch, and you're everywhere.
Well, it's part of my role, I suppose. I do all the hard yakka and let the golden boys like Thomas Waldrom and Olly Woodburn score those amazing tries. So I do the hard graft and they get the glory.
One thing I was saying to Bentos is watching you in how you read the game. You appear to be kind of 2 or 3 phases ahead of everyone else. How do you do that?
Oh, I think it comes with a bit of experience, really. I was lucky enough to be under the guidance of George Smith, who's had a remarkable year this year for a number of years back home. And I suppose through his guidance, he's sort of, again, as an open side, you need to be a couple of steps ahead of the game, I suppose, and just understanding where the likelihood is of ball positioning and all the rest.
Well, I mean, you've alluded to George Smith, and obviously there is a big fixture coming off this weekend against the man. Is it Sorcerer and Apprentice, or do you think you're a young Jedi Knight that's raised to the level now and you're going to strike him down?
Oh, it's one of those ones, isn't it, sort of thing. I enjoyed playing against him back earlier in the year at Rico, where we got a very good result from a team perspective. It's about doing it again this weekend, isn't it? And again, if I can get one up on the Jedi Master, that'd be great.
Well, I think mate, I've seen the stats from the weekend. 52 rucks cleared. I know everyone's going bonkers about Olly and the tank, but like you say, in the dark crevices, there's people doing some pretty serious graft to allow these boys to do that. So tip of the hat to you there, mate.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, I just enjoy hitting things, don't I? Really.
One thing I was gonna say was in the Saracens game, I think you took a bit of a slap from was it Vinopola? What's that like from a getting a slap point of view? Bentos said you were not steamrollered, but I was saying anything higher than a little slap to me is steamrollering because I'm a wimp.
Yeah, no. Again, it's one of those things you want to try and assert your authority against those sort of guys. And I mean, Billy's a big lad, and he's one of their main ball carriers and threats in the team. So any chance you can get out of the line and put a shot on, you try and do that. And sometimes it doesn't pay off, and sometimes you come off second best for the rest.
Is that why you're lucky? Is that why you're lucky in those teeth, Jules?
Well, you know, I don't really have much to go on in terms of facial features and all the rest. Teeth just adds to my lovely facial expression and all the rest. But you know what? You take those away, and you know what? I put my body on the line and just try and make a tackle whenever I need to.
So going into this weekend, we talked a lot when you came in about your experience alongside Parling and the tank as well. What sort of things will you guys be bringing to the party this weekend? Will you be kind of helping to cool the jets a bit going into this big game?
No, I think you got to go into the weekend as though it's a grand final sort of thing. It's a one-off match. You win this, you progress to the semi-final. You've got to take it that way. You've got to be pushing for everything and again going for broke. And that's the way I suppose we'll be looking at attacking it this weekend. It's about playing our own game, and we saw a lot of that from the weekend. And if we put that to Wasps this weekend, then it'll put us in good stead.
This is the Exeter Chiefs podcast.
Good to hear from Julian Salvi again, and if you want to hear his full podcast when he came in for a chat with me and Bentos, scroll back on Chiefs TV, listen to podcast number 3. Some good stuff from Julian with reference to coming from Australia into Bath, into Leicester, and then down to the Chiefs, sort of looking at his journey. So you got another guest for us then, Bentos? Certainly have. An international
rugby player. As wide as he is, tall as he is deep. A fantastic bloke. Really, really good guy to have around the Exeter Chiefs group.
Welcome to the podcast, Moray.
Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, we're good, buddy. First thing I want to talk to you about is the Six Nations experience from a player's perspective. What was that like, and what is that like going into that?
Yeah, no, it was obviously fantastic to be back in the mix and back up in Scotland. Not that Exeter's not a nice place, but obviously good to be back at home and playing in front of Scottish fans again was fantastic and a great experience.
It felt like a frustrating season for you this year, though. I think Vern Cotter seems to have got the culture right. Everyone's buying in. Are we expecting big things from the summer tour from the Scots and moving forth?
Yeah, I think obviously they wanted to push on from that World Cup, and they didn't want to just rely on that going forward, and they wanted to say that it's a fresh start in the Six Nations and wanted to push on. And I thought they'd done that in a couple of games. There was a couple of close results. So it could have gone different ways. But I'd say that's international rugby for you. It's always pretty close, isn't it?
So it certainly is. But moving on to things that are a bit more close to our heart, Exeter Chiefs. Before Rhino gets to you about the scrums and a bit of explanation, did you score?
I did, mate. I did. Yeah, it was. That's twice now it's happened. Last week's was a bit. The guy kind of knocked me over the line, and it did kind of look like that kind of double movement. I was short initially, but then this week it definitely was over, and they held up bodies on top, and the ref couldn't see it.
What was the question he asked the TMO? Because for me, for all the money in the world, there was no doubt you'd scored the try. The demeanour of the Worcester players around you was enough for me to go, must have scored there.
No, I don't know. I think the referee, I don't know what he asked actually. I thought I'd scored, so I went back. Now it will show up on the camera, but apparently the camera couldn't see it, so I might have to get some more cameras at Sandy Park.
Rhino's been mithering me because there was the sequence of scrums where referee Foley kept giving penalties but didn't do anything else.
Why didn't he, from your view, why didn't he just get on and give you a penalty try?
I think there was a couple of resets, wasn't there, on a few of them, and some of them he thought, we were edging and going forward, and a couple of them came up, and then I think after that yellow card, we thought after that one it would be given to us, but it's just having that consistency, I think, for us on all of them to make sure we are going forward in all of them, and we did that in the majority of them, probably should have got a penalty try out of it, but we were just doing our reviews this week and looking at it today, was just obviously having that consistency every time on the resets and keep going forward, and hopefully that penalty try will come more easy.
As a fan in the stands, that's quite frustrating. It must be quite frustrating for you guys when you're out there on the pitch and it's continually happening.
Yeah, after nine scrums in a row, and then it's only 10 minutes into the game and you have to run around the pitch for another 70. Yeah, it did make it quite tiring. But I felt we set us up for the day. I think we've taken away their set piece there and putting a marker down, tired out their forwards, and we managed to move the ball about and get the backs into space and scored some good tries.
So going into this weekend, a massive game for the club. What sort of prep are you boys going to be putting in ahead of that?
Yeah, obviously a massive game for the club. I think we need to. It's another game of rugby at the end of the day, and we it is special. It's got that special occasion, and it's close enough to an international game and. Quarterfinals in Europe. It was my first time playing in the quarterfinals in Europe as well, and for the majority of the guys it's the same. But yeah, we need to treat it like another game. Like not play the occasion, play the game and go forward from there. Because too many times I've been involved in other games before where the occasion gets to some people a bit too much, and we play that rather than playing the game in front of us. Instead.
Moray, thanks for joining us on the podcast. Good luck this weekend.
No worries. Thank you very much, guys.
Tweet your question at Exeter Chiefs. #Chiefs Podcast.
Bentos, before we hear from what the fans had to say about this weekend just gone's game, what sort of impact do you think the likes of Julian Salvi and Moray are going to have on the game this weekend, as they've been our guests on this podcast?
I think Julian's got a very important job because he's going to go up against George Smith and Thomas Young, the son of Di Young.
He was looking sharp.
Their back row's looking sharp. I think that's a very important battleground. But the big thing was Northampton showed the fallibility of the Wasps' tight play. Their line-out misfired massively. And I think that if we can get after them at scrum time as well, because when we bring Professor Parling back for the line-outs, I think if we can get after them at scrum time and stop them getting that much ball, their back line that's fated, that does so much, might not have the opportunity. And I think it could be all about us. I remember that when we played them last time, there was 4 line-out drives we skittled them over for. They'll certainly be wary of that, and I think that the key battleground is going to be the tight exchanges.
Well, the podcast microphones will be there, so if you see us, do come and say hello. We want to get your audio for the podcast next week, and you've got a shout out to do, haven't you, Bentos?
I believe I have, yes.
Yes, to Louise Paxton, who always listens to the podcast. Thank you very much for your feedback.
Well done, Louise. It's great to know that you are listening on your own. As that one solitary listener. I'm being silly now,
Stop messing about. If you've ever got a question, Louise, or anyone else, #Chiefs Podcast, just tweet at Exeter Chiefs. Time now to hear quickly from the fans and what they had to say at the end of the game last weekend.
Game was alright, a bit stop-start, but good result, good win for the Chiefs.
Standout moments for you?
Olly Woodburn, Thomas Waldrom as always.
I thought they were brilliant today.
Standout moments?
Woodburn played well today. Pretty dominant, the Chiefs. Looked well. Thought it was a really good game.
Who was your favourite player in the game today?
You've got to be Waldrom, isn't it? It has to be Thomas Waldrom, mate. I tell you what, for the guy, 33 years old, to be able to score tries regularly like that is unbelievable. When it's all-round commitment to the game. Brilliant.
It was a bit worrying in the first half, but my God, we came home with really great success.
Standout moments for you?
Just watching Olly Woodburn. You think that last year Bath didn't want him. Well, Yabu sucks to you, Bath.
And what do you reckon going into the game next week at Wasps?
Well, Wasps are playing really well. I think they'll give us a tough fight. I daren't even think what the result might be, because they are the in-form team at the moment, so good luck.
Your behind-the-scenes access to Sandy Park with Rhino and Bentos. Thank you! The Exeter Chiefs Podcast.